Good morning, learners. Hello.
Good morning, sir.
Very good morning. Do you hear?
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yes,
Thank you.
sir.
Okay. Today we will go to the last part of Marlowe with the title Fusion of Drama and Poetry. Basically, we find the fusion of drama along with the presentation of poetry in Marlowe's Dr. Faustus. Dr. Faustus as a play is essentially poetic. The play gained greater recognition as poetry than a drama, mainly on account of the use of blank verse in place of rhymed verse.
Hello.
Yes,
Hello, sir. Hello.
in place of rhymed
Hello.
verse, Marlowe has incorporated blank verse in his play, Dr. Faustus. In the ancient form of drama, usually we find the use of poetry or the use of chorus in the beginning of the play and also in the end of the play. The role of chorus and the play depends on the chorus, because during those days there was no scope for detailed exhibition of different scenes. And in order to draw the attention of the audience towards a particular situation, particular atmosphere, the use of chorus was helpful. Through chorus, the playwright or the dramatist tries to bring the whole situation and present it on the stage. The description of the entire background of the play is delivered through chorus, a song by a group of people with the help of the band, drum or trumpet. And which was famous as melodramas in the ancient time, right from the Greece, German, French, and Italian. And the use of blank verse came to existence with the Renaissance and during the Elizabethan era in England. And Marlowe gives this blank verse greater freedom of language and imagination, and an ability to present diverse thoughts and feelings to drama. Drama and poetry are two distinct forms, but when they are fused or connected in a literary endeavor, the power generated is greater. The power generated or exhibited on the stage is great. And also, it is greater than the individual strength. Individual strength means the individual dialogues of the individual characters. What the dialogue of a character cannot say, simultaneously the work is done by chorus or the poetry. In fact, poetry heightens the effect of tragedy, and more especially what we find in Dr. Faustus. Great poetry and great drama inescapably arrive at the same time, same thinking, as a perspective of human condition. The impact of rhetoric poetry on drama always remains on the reader or the spectator or viewer of a tragic play. Dr. Faustus, the play, thus touches the heart of the readers and viewers very deeply. With the help of poetry or music, Marlowe has glorified the entire play.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
What is the meanings of rhetoric poetry, sir?
Rhetoric poetry, the system or the trend, though it was in ancient literature, but its importance was felt during the Elizabethan era or during Renaissance. Rhetoric means what we have already discussed in the previous chapters. Just I am telling you. Rhetoric words which was playing a vital role in Renaissance or Renaissance plays like Dr. Faustus, which means the units of energy what we feel through poetry. And this feeling what we get from poetry in a new form with the power of language is called a rhetoric poetry. And the character Faustus in Marlowe's Dr. Faustus chooses to be impulsively rhetorical, driving himself into a state of aspiration beyond his abilities. rhetoric, the word, is also connected with satire and irony, through which we can see the demerits or defects in literature or in the story or plot of a play or a poem. And this impact of rhetoric poetry always remains on the readers or viewers of a tragic play. Thus, Dr. Faustus, as the best production of Christopher Marlowe, touches the heart of every readers and the spectators of the play. It presents the genuity or cleverness of dramatic art so much as a rhetoric that aggressively fashions out the new human character. The rhetoric writes not so much as dramatic devices, but its impact on language, its words and their melody and poetry plays a vital role in the play. The critics opine that Dr. Faustus is more a poem than a play. In fact, the use of rhetoric poetry and blank verse we find a lot in the play. In fact, Marlowe faces more criticism on several counts from different critics, but no one pays a tribute to Marlowe and his poetic excellence. And the use of blank verse and rhetoric poetry in theatre. Tribute to Marlowe began with Ben Jonson, who was greatly impressed by his use of poetry in the play and called it mighty line. He praised Marlowe and gave the title of his use of poetry in the play as the mighty line. Robert Greene finds a thunder in Marlowe's voice, for which a great critic, Leigh Hunt, says, if ever there was a born poet, Marlowe was one. And Marlowe and Spenser are the first of our poets who perceived the beauty of words. We have already discussed in the last class that the use of words, the magic of words takes a major role in a play. As a poet, Marlowe was born in the Renaissance love of rhetoric, because rhetoric poetry became famous during Renaissance. With the weapon of language, use of words, the Renaissance chiefly used to explore human aspirations and elevate man to a centrally in the cosmos. Bartlett geometry, a modern critic, speaks of Marlowe and his achievement in Dr. Faustus. You can note it down. Bartlett, B-A-R-L-E-T-T, geometry, G-I-A-M-A-T-T-I. He speaks of Marlowe's achievement in Dr. Faustus as Marlowe's Dr. Faustus celebrates that God-like power, God-like power of language, and shows us how words can soar, S-O-R, and tempts us to dizzying heights, D-I-Z-Z-Y-I, dizzying heights, tempts us to dizzying heights within our heads by using our imagination. But all the time, Marlowe is in control. Marlowe is in control. What type of control? Control in the use of words, use of language. He knows too much about the shaping power of words to be a Faustus. That means, according to Bartlett, Marlowe had his control on the dialects of Faustus during the play. And in the play, Marlowe chooses poetry or chorus to achieve the power of magic in the voice of chorus through the glory and power of language and its words. To have power, a change is required in the structure of the verse or poetry that is to be used in a play. The ancient use of stanza form in Greece or Germany or Italy was changed into verse form and gradually changing into dialogues or spoken speech. During Renaissance, when change was felt everywhere, in every aspect of life, its impact was also great on literature. So, we find great change. We find a great change in literature and the languages used in the literature, the form, the style, the technique. Everything changed also in the field of creation, in the field of literary activities. Then comes the blank verse. Use of blank verse in the Elizabethan play. Not only in the plays of Marlowe, but also we find in the entire Elizabethan plays and after it, the use of blank verse in English literature as a whole. First, we will see what blank verse is. Blank verse is an unrhymed verse written in iambic pentameter, a measure introduced in English poetry. A measure introduced in English poetry by the Earl of Surrey. By the Earl of Surrey in his translation of the Latin epic of Virgil, the Areid, Areid, which is written in rhyme, which is written in rhymeless verb, rhymeless verse. And the Earl of Surrey decided to translate the epic also in rhymeless verse, which latter became the principal medium of epic. Epic means a long narrative and a poetic drama. And Surrey used blank verse for epic in 1530. In 1530. And about 23 years later, it was used in tragedy. And 50 years later, blank verse of Surrey's translation became the mighty line in the hands of Marlowe. It became the mighty line as per the version of Ben Jonson. As per the version of Ben Jonson. And since then, it became the English measure par excellence. You can note it down. The mighty line used by Marlowe in the early Elizabethan era became the English measure par excellence. The Dictionary of World Literature, edited by J.T. Shipley, Shipley, nicely narrates the development of blank verse in English poetry and in English drama. You can note it down. Because of its freedom from rhyme, because of its freedom from rhyme, in ancient term RIME, rhyme, but in English RHYME. It has even greater fluidity and malleability, malleability, malleability than Chaucer could give the line in his couplets or stanzas, and when one thinks of the long roll of those that have employed it, Shakespeare, Milton, Wordsworth, Keats, Shelley, Tennyson, Browning, Swinburne, To name only the greatest. To name only the greatest. Hyphen. And the immense variety of effects. The immense variety of effects they have achieved with it. They have achieved with it, comma. One might call it the English measure par excellence. EXCELLENCE. The English measure par excellence. Par excellence within comma. Full stop. Something like 3/4 of English poetry. Something like 3/4 of English poetry is written in blank verse. Is written in blank verse. Yet, comma, in its long history, it has undergone great changes. Great changes. First up, after the rigidity of its first appearance, comma, it at once adapted itself to Marlowe's rhetoric, to rigidity of its first appearance, it at once adapted itself to Marlowe's rhetoric and Shakespeare's poetry. Marlowe's rhetoric and Shakespeare's poetry. First stop. Then the Jacobean dramatists, JACOBEAN. Then the Jacobean dramatists broke it down to something very near to prose. Comma. And the Restoration playwrights displayed it by the heroic couplets for a few years, comma. Heroic couplets for a few years, comma. But presently, even Dryden grew weary, W-A-R-Y, of his long-loved mistress, rhyme, comma, and wrote in blank verse, is one real tragedy. First stop. Already with his learned diction, and involved grammar, Milton was making it a new thing. And by his elaborately and by his elaborately worked out system, and by his elaborately worked out system of elision, ELISION, system of elision, combined the effects of an essential, ACCENTUAL, of an essential and a syllable counting measure. And a syllable counting measure. Full stop. After Milton, its development had to be in the direction of simplicity, comma, in the direction of simplicity, comma, and though the Miltonic shadow played over 18th century black horse, and quite darkened Keats Wordsworth freed it and lands brought to a fine conversational level. And lands brought to a fine conversational level. Followed by Robinson. Full stop. With Tennyson and Swinburne, it became elaborate again. Over-mannered, M-A-N-N-E-R-E-D, over-mannered, comma, at present, comma, it is employing rhythms with the writings of T.S. Eliot and Robert Frost. It is employing rhythms with the writings of T.S. Eliot and Robert Frost. Nearer those of daily speech. speech. Inverted comma ends. And the Dictionary of World Literature very neatly and elaborately expressed the development of blank verse in English poetry and English drama. From this short passage, we collect a broad idea about the use of blank verse in English literature. Right from the Elizabethan era, right from the age of Renaissance till the modern age, up to Robert Frost or T.S. Eliot. The translation of Virgil's Aeneid into English by the Earl of Surrey using blank verse in English became the medium of English dramatic poetry. It was a magnificent instrument which worked wonders in the hands of Marlowe, Shakespeare, and Milton. The particular trend of blank verse, which was first introduced by the Earl of Surrey in his translation of an epic of the great author Virgil. Practically, blank verse was matured in the hands of Marlowe during Elizabethan era. Marlowe's blank verse is capable of flexibility and of an infinite variety of pace, varying emotions, infinite variety of pace, varying emotions. It was not a rigid one like that of Earl of Surrey or the pre-Elizabethan writers. Marlowe's lucidity, resonance, and music found a still richer reception in the plays of Shakespeare, and also after that in the epics of Milton. Marlowe began a trend, better we say a new trend, within a very short span of time. Within a very short span of time. But set up a milestone for his successors to use blank verse in poetry and drama. Even the trend continues till this modern and ultra-modern age. in the hands of Shakespeare, Black Horse in latter plays achieved perfection as it was magnificently used for varying emotions. According to the situation in the play, Shakespeare tried his best to use Black Horse according to the situation, according to the environment or the condition of the play, as well as the atmosphere. Also the condition, social condition, political condition, religious condition, in order to match the go of English life, matching with the go of the English life, English politics, English religious beliefs, are according to the choice of English people in Elizabethan age or during Renaissance. In the later Shakespearean plays, the lines of Black Horse may be single, but they are not monotonous. Monotony is avoided by the weak endings, by variety of pause and emphasis, and by the run-on lines. Thus, with a radical change in the use of Black Horse in poetry and drama, as used by the poets and dramatists, great poets and dramatists like Marlowe, Shakespeare, Milton, and Tennyson, is marked by 5 notable qualities. 5 notable qualities. You can note it down. Number 1, inversions of rhythm. INVERSIONS. Inversions of rhythm. Number 1. Number 2, substitution, especially the rhetoric substitution. Number 3, enjambment, the ancient term, enjambment, ENJMBENT. That means continuation of the sense. Continuity of the sense over from one line into another. Over from one line to another. Continuity of sense, which is called in ancient terms enjambment. ENJMBENT. Number 4, the use of feminine endings. Feminine endings. Feminine endings means what? Soft, not hard. Number 5, variety of pause line. PAUSE. Variety of pause line. Gravity of the, showing gravity of the word, the language used in Black Horse. John Skelton, SKELTON, one critic, used blank verse. One critic and writer, John Skelton, used blank verse in Magnificence. In his book, Magnificence, Magnificence. And similarly, Sackville and Norton used blank verse in Gorboduc, Gorboduc, in their book, Gorboduc. And Thomas Kidd, Kyd, Thomas Kidd used blank verse in his book, Spanish Tragedy, for the purpose of subtle characterization. Because with the help of blank verse, these great writers used to make their characters powerful. Make their characters powerful on the stage before the English audience. Marlowe was the real character to be a great creator of the most famous, the noblest, the most versatile of English measures, the unrhymed decasyllabic line, famous as blank verse. He used the unrhymed decasyllabic meter or line, well known or famous as blank verse. Long before him, the trend of blank verse, of course, was invented by the Earl of Surrey, Sackville and Norton, Skelton and Kidd. But we have already discussed. Still, blank verse was in its infancy. It was not glorified, vividly used, and easily accepted by the readers or by the spectators or viewers or audience. When Marlowe picked it up to use it in his tragedy, with certain changes, it became powerful. It became powerful with the quality of the acceptance by the readers. Acceptance of the readers, viewers, or spectators. He effected a revolution, a change he brought in use of or using blank verse. With the result, blank verse became the great measure in Elizabethan English literature. He made it so sweet, so melodious, technically so sound, that it became famous and also popular with the Elizabethan English readers as well as writers. His successors, the university wits, along with Shakespeare, everybody accepted it, and also it is accepted till the modern age, like the writers like Eliot or American writer Robert Frost. Marlowe used some devices to make it perfect, and thus English blank verse is transformed from a stiff and monotonous into a most flexible and varied meter. The range of the meter becomes almost unlimited when, as with the latter Shakespeare and with Milton, the proportion of run-on lines. Run-on lines means usual, used in the play, with the adjustment of the life of the actors and actresses, matching into their dialogues. It was made stage fit to use in chorus and use in the voice of the protagonist, hero, heroines, and some other characters. And this run-on lines is greatly increased. The system of run-on lines, the proportion of run-on lines is greatly increased during Elizabethan period.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
That Sanskrit play, the English plays same as the Sanskrit plays, or English plays are different from the Sanskrit plays?
Different from Sanskrit?
Yes, different or same, that are.
No, that is not the thing.
Yes, sir. And
Because
in Sanskrit,
the impact of Sanskrit, impact of Sanskrit literature came in the 20th century,
okay,
not
sir.
before that.
And in
The
Sanskrit
impact
literature,
of the impact of Sanskrit literature was felt during
yes.
Eliot, T.S. Eliot.
And in Sanskrit drama or in Sanskrit plays, they were using the Mangalacharan in invocations or preface and Sandhi, that type of things they are using in their drama. But
No, it was used in the modern, in the modern times.
Yes, sir.
And perhaps the trend began from T.S. Eliot.
No, sir. No. In the time of Kalidas also, he using that type of things in his drama.
Very little use was there, but in an expanded way.
Yes, sir.
T.S. Eliot accepted Bhagavad Gita and also the great mythology of Hindu mythology, scripts of great Sanskrit literature from Kalidas or other writers,
Okay, sir.
scriptures. He read variedly Sanskrit literature and also produced it
Sanskrit
in
drama
his,
is different from the English
reflected in his.
drama.
Before that, it was not so keenly accepted by the English writers.
Okay.
Somehow we find some also examples in some of the writings of some of the poets and also critics like Arnold, and but it was not so popular. Sanskrit literature was not so widely accepted in English field of English literature.
Okay, sir.
Only some examples we find sometimes in some poems or in some dramas, in some essays.
Yes.
But it was not so variedly used. It came to limelight with the writings of Eliot in the modern times.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Now, during Elizabethan period, English language and literature was not so much developed before Elizabethan period. And it was perhaps due to the love of English people, love of their drama. And before Shakespeare or Marlowe, the Greek plays, French plays, German plays, and Italian plays were directly exhibited on the stage. But there was not particular stage or theatre in England, but in some places it was exhibited directly with in the old form, in their own version, own dialogues, which was not so much accepted by the English people, because the English public during in a mass were not acquainted with some European language and European literature. Common people were not aware of all those things. Only learned people or wise people or in the court it was also dramatized or exhibited. It was not so vividly accepted by English culture. And it started with the writings of Marlowe. And some translations were made also from the Bible, from some epics, from some Greek dramas or German plays, like Dr. Faustus. The origin has come from Germany. The original data, original story, and original background has been taken by Marlowe from Germany. And he has tried his best to make it stage fit for the English people, English audience, by keeping in view or his honor towards politics, religion, cultural and social life of English people of the then period. Dr. Foster shows most effectively the extent of Marlowe's achievement in developing black force, and he was satisfied with his work, and also he tried his best to satisfy the English people, the listeners and viewers or audience, with the end stopped line, changing the fall of the stress and the internal pause sufficiently to avoid the monotony which this meter previously had. All the difficulties he tried to eradicate, all the problems to be understood by the general people, by the common people. Because common people were not so advanced or developed or acquainted with world literature or foreign literatures. So in order to make it easy for their convenience, for their understanding, Marlowe tries his best how to make it the simplest of the simple form. Simplest of the simple form of black verse. How it will be easily accepted by the common people. And after him, Shakespeare became more lenient, flexible. And also, he started taking characters from common people. And also what we find in his play, romantic comedy, that is A Midsummer Night's Dream. But we will start in the next class. But throughout the play, we find in Dr. Foster's, there is an evident variation in his handling of black horse, and in the chorus passages, for example, with a straightforward narration, the verse seems more consistently regular in its beat. Beat means rhythm, as if he were intentionally aiming at to bring an effect of stately rigidity. But it is the emotional passages which illustrate Marlowe's height and his highest achievement as a writer of blank verse. The final monologue of Dr. Faustus is the most striking specimen or example of blank verse, and here because of the stress of emotion, the blank verse is endowed by Marlowe with new and beautiful stress or cadences. This is all about blank verse, the background of blank verse, and the blank verse used by Marlowe in his tragic play, Dr. Faustus. Now we will go to Shakespeare's comedy, romantic comedy. Already in the second class, we have discussed about the English tradition of romantic comedy, tradition of comedy. And while going through the chapters of the Elizabethan drama, growth of Elizabethan theatre, also we have gone through the Elizabethan comedy. The English comedy developed during the reign of Queen Elizabeth, or what we say the Renaissance comedy. We have already gone through its definitions and the origin of comedy in the ancient literature, right from Greek. The definitions or divisions of comedy. And while discussing divisions of comedy, there is classical and romantic comedy, comedy of humors, comedy of manners, gentle comedy, and comedy of intrigue and sentimental comedy. All those 6 categories of comedies we have already discussed in the second class. Now, among all those comedies, the most popular and widely accepted comedy is the romantic comedy. And the trend was introduced by Shakespeare in English literature. Now we will see how not only Shakespeare but also the university wits like Ben Jonson, and after him, John Webster, and also Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night Dream, As You Like It, Twelfth Night. And this comedy, romantic comedy, was based upon the theme of love. Love as a blend of sentiment, viable, eccentricity, artifice, with artifice, trick, dedication, and self-centeredness. And romantic love is more found in the nature of ludicrous rather than ridiculous. And this type of comedies set in a pastoral or old world ambience in the field of nature evokes a romantic mood and an atmosphere of exhilaration, celebrations, chivalry, and enchantment, which is melodramatic to the core of harpsichord instrument. Elizabethan romantic comedy provides a way into a world of fancy and imagination from the grim realities of life. With song and imaginative ideas, it has been glorified by the Elizabethan writers, dramatists, that we find comedy in the plays of Johnson and his comedy as a social purgatives to the prevalent moral degraded people, meant for degraded people. Essentially, which was called the city comedies. And his protagonists are Johnson's heroes are rogues who used to correct their lives, change their lives, with their ability to gull others and for their avaricious deeds. These types of characters are developed by Johnson in his comedy. But Shakespeare was something different, and his comedies are powerful, and he used to take characters in his comedy from three different levels, from three different sectors. He has divided his characters into three groups. Number one, the aristocratic or royal characters from royal families or the kings and queens, or the noblemen, or the courtiers, or the aristocratic people. The second category of characters he used to take in his romantic comedy, that is the common people. The common people characters like working class people, from working class people, he used to take the characters. The characters like servants, carpenters, weavers, joiner, bellow mender, or a tailor, police constable or servant. He used to choose his characters from this group. And the third characters, he used to portray the characters from some imaginary world. Angels, fairies, supernatural elements. They used to come down to the stage of Shakespeare and take part in the
Excuse me, sir.
play.
Third one. Third comedy one.
What?
Third group of comedy.
Comedy?
There are three group of comedy, three level of comedy, three different group of comedy. That aristocratic, and third one.
No, we have already discussed the types of comedy, but now we have gone to Shakespeare's comedy, romantic comedy.
Yes, sir. I am telling about the Shakespeare comedy, and you told that three different group are there.
Characters from different groups he used to take.
Yes, sir. Three different. Yes.
And also the shining example of the Midsummer Night Dream. Also, we will go in details. And we will find how Shakespeare has utilized these three types of characters on one stage.
Last one, sir.
The last type of characters he used to take, or he has taken from the heavenly bodies, like the angels, fairies, or supernatural elements. They appear on the stage and also take part with the humanly or living beings. That is the magic art of Shakespeare on the Elizabethan stage. Anyway, we will also discuss it in details. Now, first we will see what is romantic comedy and its origin. On the 16th century stage in England, romantic comedy was one of the most popular and delightful entertainer, widely accepted by the English audience. Of course, we have discussed in the second class regarding the origin of comedy, ancient comedy in ancient lands, ancient countries. But regarding English comedy, it got its origin, what we find in the 16th century. Of course, some alternatives of the formula was made by Sir William Shakespeare when he became closely associated with the English theatre and started writing comedies. Romantic comedy permits and even demands the inclusion of real comedy or low comedy, what you say. The realistic comedy deals with ordinary people and even the low characters and low incidents also, small incidents. It is usually a matter of situation rather than the character. The critics say that Shakespeare's romantic comedy was based on or is based on situations, not on the character. The characters revolve around the main plot or the situation created eventually on the stage. And the characters, they have to accommodate, they have to cooperate the situation. That brings a beautiful end of the comedy. That brings a happy ending, better we say, in the literary term. It brings a happy ending at the end of the play. Realism is the ever-varying injection of familiar material or bits of current speech, little sketches of everyday environment, or intimate sketches of well-known persons, common people, like a constable, a schoolmaster, tavern keeper, or character like this. A plumber or a tailor or like this. Realism of a vulgar type like jumping, frisking, bustling, whistling, and dodging. These things were also avoided. These things are not found in romantic comedy. But the activities of the common man, their feeling, their workmanship, their manner is very neatly woven by the playwright. Humorous satire is likely to be described in a light manner by the universal geniuses. That self-assertive and blundering senses of human being, common people, and which was also established by Robert Greene in his A Maiden's Dream. Having no maiden in the play. But it was not a so popular play, and by going against the trend of Robert Greene, Shakespeare goes ahead of him and corrected the mistakes done by Greene by producing a beautiful romantic comedy, A Midsummer Night's Dream. Romantic comedy has a main plot and subject and also it is constructed with the help of one or two subplots. We have already discussed about the three categories of characters taken by Shakespeare in his comedy, romantic comedy. And the main plot revolves around the aristocratic characters. The main plot, an aristocratic man and woman fall in love with each other, but cannot marry for some reason. They may be socially incompatible, or their families may have a long-standing quarrel. Or it could be that the man or the woman do not even realize they are in love. Then some external agency, like the disclosure of a secret situation, now comes. The disclosure of a secret or a trick by others brings the lovers together and their marriage becomes successful. Or the intention to marry comes to the limelight, which is at last, at the end of the play, celebrated with a dance or a feast or a ceremony, in which we find some disharmonious elements. And eventually, according to the circumstances, Shakespeare has taken a major step to assimilate or to entangle some minor characters. Who used to take the secondary responsibilities or helping the lovers to be united or creating a situation to motivate the senior fellows, senior aristocratic fellows, the characters of the first page, characters of the senior characters, like that of the father and mother of the lovers, the man and the woman in love, or the court people, or the duke or the king or the ruler of that estate. The common people try to influence them through their dialogues or through the chorus or poetry used in the play. Because we find famous poems and sonnets of Shakespeare used in his plays, variedly used. Like with some moral and valuable lines, the sonnets and poems of Shakespeare has been placed in his plays according to the situation. Under the greenwood tree and all the world is a stage. Like 154 sonnets he has written, and most of his sonnets are found in his plays. And then comes the third category. And now we will see according to the situation. And the theme of love has been taken from Greek tradition, Greek mythology or Greek plays. According to the Greek tradition and belief, the presiding deity, Hymen, Hymen, the god of marriage, according to their faith, Greek belief, that Hymen, the god of marriage, makes all possible arrangements to make a love successful and to give a shape of marriage to all those loves. The action of the play focuses on courtship or any place of their understanding, place of, cooperation between the family members of the lover and the family member of the beloved, the senior citizens of the society, or even sometimes the court people or the administrator himself or herself remain present on the spot with all possible arrangements. That's why the romantic play ends with a very pleasant situation and celebrations or feast or chorus or singing simultaneously to take place on the stage. Practically, in a romantic comedy, two plots are found. I have already told you the main plot and a subplot. And sometimes also we find two subplots in a romantic play. The characters of the subplots are from lower status, like servants, carpenters, weavers, joiner, bellowmender, or a tailor, or a police constable. Two major functions of the subplot are to parody the main plot and wittingly or willingly, witty or unwitty, sort out the problems of the characters in the main plot. What we have already discussed, that the role of the characters of the subplot, they are only employed to help the characters in the main plot, to give them moral support, to give them social support, to give them religious support, to convince the elders, to convince the administrators, the rulers, the court people, how to convince them to make the love successful, because the motto of the play is to create a romantic situation. And sometimes also the playwright or the dramatist has to take the help of third category of characters to make the play more light, to make the play more enjoyable, to make the play more practicable for amusement, to add some more amuse. He used to take the help of third category of characters, that the characters from heaven, the characters from unseen world, imaginary world, in order to make it more dynamic, more pleasurable, more, romantic. To sort out the problems of the characters of the main plot, two categories of characters are enforced or established by the playwright. As a whole, the main plot and the subplot interact, and at the end, everyone joins in a chorus and celebrates the occasion. A grand feast is arranged, and the trumpet and the drum, the musical arrangement, the arrangement of the music, with the arrangement of the music, everybody celebrates the function, the happy ending of the play. The young dramatists like Shakespeare, when he was writing comedies, he was very young. And in his days, went to work on his own account and began to experiment in different kinds of comedy. And we have gone through the origin of comedy, that how and why Shakespeare has produced different types of comedies. And he began his experiment when he was a young man. And his personal life shows that after his boyhood, he had to leave his own place, Stratford-on-Avon, and left for London to seek his fortune. What he will do being a young man. And when he came to London, the English theatre or tradition of English drama has already started. Of course, no, not so popular or so enhanced the area of drama, English drama. But Marlowe and his people, they have already started the tradition of theatre, trend of theatre in England. And Shakespeare, as a boy, he was keenly interested towards the plays. He was very fond of enjoying plays. Even he used to work miles together and leave his home for 2 to 3 days or 5 days to enjoy dramas in different places of England. But when he left home, reached in London, First, he had to find, or he was in search of livelihood. What he will eat, where he will stay. And with this thought, he preferred to work in a theater. He preferred to work in a theater to fulfill his own desire of being a dramatist or a famous actor. First, he was employed in the stable or to keep in charge of the horses used by the noblemen and the aristocratic people who used to visit plays. After some days, he tried to enter into the theater. Because during those days, nobody knows him. So he used to, or tries to enter into the theater. And how he will enter? He requested the authorities to give him some small work, some small job of pulling the screen or cleaning the stage, small works on the stage. He was employed. And sometimes, after some days, few days, when there was the scarcity of artists or the characters absent on the stage, he used to act taking small roles, or in one scene or two scenes or in one act, something like that. And his performance was wonderful. And by the way, he was given some important characters and became famous as an actor. And also, during some epidemic like corona, plague, and some other long time passing through the tragic period of spreading of different diseases, theaters were closed. And Shakespeare had to go away from London to visit different countries and finding small jobs in the ships. He used to travel the entire Europe during the plague, like that of the corona nowadays spread all over the world. During plague in England, during those days, there was no scope of spreading the diseases to one continent to another continent so easily, because due to lack of modernized transportation, one must have to travel months together in a ship on sea, and spreading of this contagious diseases like plague was not so easy to spread as soon as possible or in a very short time. So Shakespeare visited so many foreign countries or European countries, and during those days he started writing plays. And we find different categories of plays: Roman plays, Greek plays, historical plays, comedy, tragedy, and men from different lands, characters from Venice, Verona, Italy, Rome, and also by going through the ancient plays, historical plays like Julius Caesar, and also by taking the lives of the emperors of Great Britain He has also written many historical plays, somehow also to please the royal or to get the royal patronage or please the king or the ruler. And he was liked by Queen Elizabeth in his youth and also performed plays in her court. And with this experiment, first he wrote Love's Labour's Lost, and with his young man's thought, wit, satire, a comedy of oddities, and dialogues carefully woven or elaborated. Underlying this, a young man's theory with reference to culture and education, comedy of manners was produced by Shakespeare. The comedy of the incident, almost a farce. The shining example is the Two Gentlemen of Verona. It is a first and somewhat slight experiment of Shakespeare, and the same kind of love comedy of Shakespeare afterwards created so many delightful examples, and A Midsummer Night's Dream took its birth, which is a shining example of that category, romantic comedy. With the poetry of a young man's fancy, these comedies of Shakespeare are included in the group of early comedies in his youthful days. The setting up of Shakespeare's romantic comedy is some places, remote places, distant from England, such as Messina or Athens, Venice or Verona. This added the quality of a fairy tale category that the Englishman cannot easily understand the characters. There must be some eloquence, there must be some ambiguity, there must be some question in the mind of the English audience, and always they must have to employ or engage their imagination, apply their imagination, cultivate their imagination to understand the characters. And with this mesmerism, with this establishment of mesmerism, invention of mesmerism, Shakespeare wanted to draw the interest of the English audience. And by taking characters from some distant lands, like the Arabian tales, Arabian Nights, he wanted to create a fairy tale atmosphere on the stage. Always interesting, always something different types of characters, life on stage. The action of such romantic comedies usually begins with a court scene or a judicial atmosphere, and where the marriage of the lovers is obstructed. And as a result, they fly to some natural place close to nature, such as a village or forest or some ideal pastoral setting that encourages love and fertility. Having found their love's fulfillment, they return to the society or the city or the court with the help of some other characters who make arrangement for their return, who convince their elders or the major characters in a subplot. And the characters of the subplot we have already discussed, they used to help the characters of the main plot, and sometimes the help of the third category of characters, second subplot, is also required. Appearance of angels, appearance of fairies, appearance of, some supernatural elements, ghost or something like that. And these terror horror scenes we find in, of course, in tragedy. But the sweet and the heavenly characters, like the angels or the fairies, appear in a comedy. The purpose of romantic comedy is to emphasize accepted social values. Thus, love, which is allowed for marriage at the end of the play, makes it more valuable. The social value is honored in the play. Because in the old tradition, love was regarded as a heavenly thing, blessed by God. And the people in the society should honor love, irrespective of any situation. That the love has been created, and in order to honor that love, at last they accept it, and the love turns into marriage. The harmonious threatening of the society to the activity of lovers is gentle. In a very polished way, they used to oppose the love in the beginning, or they bring it to the court of law, or they bring it to the court of justice, or they bring it to the court of the royal personage, or the ruler or the administrator. But the chief function of romantic comedy is to entertain and reunion, the reunion of the lovers. In Shakespeare's use of romantic comedy, Shakespeare has applied a formula, a technique in a Midsummer Night Dream, and that can be measured in three ways. The technique or the formula adopted by young Shakespeare in a Midsummer Night Dream, the romantic comedy, we can categorize it in three parts. Number one, in the first stage, the forest obviously represents the pastoral world which the aristocratic Athenians, Lysander and Hermia, that is the, from Greek play, characters have been taken, or the example have been taken, or the example have been taken by Shakespeare's theatre, that the pastoral atmosphere, the pastoral use of the scene of forest or pastoral land or any natural village or suburban area. Like the Athenian characters Lysander and Hermia run away when their love is obstructed by Hermia's father and the Duke Theseus. And the same thing, the same character has been taken by Shakespeare in his play. As soon as they return to the city and to the court, their marriages are fixed. The play ends with much celebration. Secondly, Shakespeare takes not one but two subplots. Instead of two sets of characters, he has taken three sets of characters in A Midsummer Night's Dream. In the second stage, Shakespeare takes not one but two subplots. Instead of two sets of characters, he has taken three sets of characters. Also, he sometimes adds the third set of characters like fairies, angels, and some holy supernatural elements. Here in A Midsummer Night's Dream, the character of Titania, the queen of fairies, character of Titania, the fairy queen, enjoys her extramarital affair, a love with bottom, a weaver, a common man. The beautiful entanglement of different characters. I mean, the association of different characters. Bottom, a weaver, a common man. And she falls in love also with an animal-headed mortal who is quite below her rank in status and not even a fairy. Interlink between the characters. Finally, in the third phase, a false ending is found in A Midsummer Night's Dream. Oberon and Titania end their quarrel, and as a result, three marriages occur, of course, at once in Act 4. But the Act 5 is reserved for the merriment, and the three categories of characters appear on the stage at a time for celebration. And a chorus is presented on the stage. So, A Midsummer Night's Dream as a successful romantic comedy is categorized in three parts. And critics examine the play in three ways. Thus, the purpose of romantic comedy is to emphasize as accepted social values. Love, which ends in marriage, is allowed by the society, but adulterous or obsessive love is not allowed, which was the trend of the Elizabethan society. They never allowed illegal love. But they used to honor the heavenly love or legal marriages. This is all about the Shakespeare's romantic comedy with a special interest in A Midsummer Night's Dream. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.